What if the ghosts you're afraid of are real? Imagine standing in a house in the dead of night, alone. But you're not alone. You're being watched by someone you can't see. This is the experience many visitors have at Agnes Keith House in Sandakan, Sabah, an old colonial house with a dark past and a reputation for chilling, unexplainable events. But here's the question. Would you still visit this house knowing the eerie truths hidden behind its walls? Agnes Keith House was once home to the renowned American author, Agnes Newton Keith, whose books have gained international acclaim. But it's not her stories that have kept people talking about this house. It's the stories that don't belong in the pages of any book. The house was built between 1946 and 1947 on a hilltop in Sandakan, after the destruction of an earlier home during the Japanese invasion. Agnes and her husband, Harry Keith, lived there for several years, but after their departure, the house changed owners multiple times. In 2001, the house was restored to its original state and opened to the public as a museum. But since then, it's been more than just a museum. It has become a place where visitors come to experience paranormal activities. Agnes herself wrote about the strange things she saw in the house in her book, White Man Returns. She didn't believe in ghosts, but every day she saw a tall, gaunt woman. The woman would walk down the path with the baby, then stop at the bottom, look back, and disappear. That was just the beginning. When others moved into the house after Agnes left, many would report seeing the same apparition. A woman, tall, dressed in an old-fashioned white dress. Some said she had a bandage around her head. Others described her as pale, her eyes hollow, her presence unsettling. One night, the wife of a man who replaced Harry Keith as a conservator of forests in Sandakan had her own terrifying encounter. She woke up in the middle of the night to find a figure standing over her. The figure was dressed in an old white blouse and a dark pinafore dress. Her description was haunting. The figure was tall and looked down at her, staring intensely, and when she tried to scream, she passed out. When she woke up, it was morning and she was alone, but that wasn't the only time the house showed its true nature. The staff at Agnes Keith House have seen things that can't be explained. A security guard tells of numerous sightings. "I've seen her too," he says. "She always stands near the window watching, waiting." Over the years, countless visitors have reported seeing the same woman, appearing only once in a while. Some say she's harmless, but others claim that the sight of her made them feel as though something terrible was about to happen. And then there's the story of a school trip. A group of young children were visiting the house when one of the boys suddenly burst into tears. He screamed that he had seen the woman standing by the window. The other children looked, but there was no one there. But it wasn't just the visitors who were disturbed. There are accounts from the guards that are even more chilling. Another security guard recalls being woken in the middle of the night by the feeling of someone touching him. No one was there, but he could still feel the invisible hands. Other guards have reported hearing footsteps, whispers, and unexplained sounds coming from the upper floors, even when no one was in the house. The house breathes, they say, and it has a mind of its own. But perhaps the most terrifying aspect of Agnes Keith House is its mysterious, unpredictable nature. Sometimes visitors are not just startled, they're pushed to the brink of madness. A recent proposal to turn the house into a haunted attraction didn't come as a surprise to anyone familiar with its history. They want to offer a sleepover experience in the house. Visitors will sleep on the floor in sleeping bags, not to disturb the house's original furnishings, and outside they could camp, braving the night with nothing but the sounds of the wind and the trees to keep them company. But can anyone truly sleep there? Knowing the history, knowing what haunts the rooms, can you lay down and shut your eyes? One night, a guest, an experienced paranormal investigator, decided to stay the night in the house alone. He set up his equipment, prepared for anything, and waited. The night passed in eerie silence, until around 3 a.m. That's when the temperature in the room dropped suddenly. The air felt thick and heavy. Then, from the corner of the room, a shadow moved, slowly, deliberately. The investigator turned, camera in hand, but all he caught on film was the shadow retreating toward the window, where it disappeared into the darkness. And the whispers, they were louder that night. Agnes Keith House stands as a reminder of the past, but it's also a place where the past refuses to stay buried. It's not just a historical site, it's a battleground between the living and the dead, between history and what remains. So, would you dare to spend a night there? Would you brave the whispers, the cold air, the strange figures, and the stories that refuse to fade? You may leave with a new story of your own, but don't be surprised if that story doesn't end when you walk out of the house. Some places don't let go that easily. Have you ever walked past an abandoned house and felt an inexplicable chill, a lingering sense that something isn't quite right? Imagine a place where the echoes of a tragic past refuse to fade, where the walls seem to whisper tales of horror to those who dare to listen. This is the story of the bungalow at Jalan Turi, Kuala Lumpur, a place where reality and the supernatural intertwine, leaving a legacy of fear and fascination. In the early hours of April the 23rd, 1992, tragedy struck a secluded bungalow in Jalan Turi, nestled in the quiet neighborhood of Taman Bukit Bandaraya, Bangsar. The Talwar family, originally from New York, had made Malaysia their new home. That night, Mrs. Sunita Talwar returned alone from an evening out. Her husband, Rakesh, was away on a business trip. Inside the house were their two young sons, 11-year-old Kabir and 7-year-old Arjun, along with their 45-year-old Filipino maid, Natalia Fernandez. As Sunita stepped inside, a chilling surprise awaited her. She was suddenly attacked by the family's security guard, 25-year-old Arifin Agas. Despite the injury, Sunita's will to survive drove her to flee, desperate for help from a nearby neighbor. But inside the house, a far darker nightmare was unfolding. The following morning, the bodies of Kabir, Arjun, and Natalia were discovered in the septic tank behind the bungalow, stacked upon one another in a horrific display of brutality. The nation was stunned by the shocking crime. Arifin, who had only been employed for 3 days, was quickly arrested and later executed for his heinous actions. But the horror didn't end there. In the years following the murders, locals began to speak of unsettling occurrences at the bungalow. Neighbors reported seeing the apparitions of 2 children peering from the main gate, their faces filled with sorrow and longing. The once grand residence, now abandoned, became a magnet for thrill seekers and paranormal enthusiasts. Visitors claimed to experience sudden chills, hear faint whispers, and feel an oppressive presence within the decaying walls. Some even reported seeing fleeting shadows darting across windows, vanishing upon closer inspection. The bungalow's notoriety grew, drawing attention from urban explorers, and the curious alike. Photographs taken at night captured eerie images, misty figures, unexplained lights, and distorted shapes that defied logical explanation. Stories circulated of people feeling an unseen force push them away from the property, as if the spirits within were protecting their domain. Local legends intertwined with the bungalow's history. Tales spoke of a witch doctor who once practiced black magic on the premises, further tainting the land with dark energy. It was said that his rituals opened a gateway, allowing malevolent entities to roam freely long after his death. Despite its haunted reputation, the bungalow was eventually demolished. Yet, the stories persisted. A real estate agent, attempting to sell the land, captured photographs that revealed unsettling details and other personal items scattered across the site. Were these remnants of the previous occupants, or something more sinister? Even after demolition, visitors reported feeling uneasy near the former site. Some claimed to hear children's laughter, while others felt an inexplicable sadness wash over them. The spirits of Kabir, Arjun, and Natalia seemed unwilling to leave, their tragic end forever etched into the fabric of Jalan Turi. The tale of Jalan Turi serves as a haunting reminder of how deeply tragedy can imprint upon a place. It's a story that blurs the lines between history and the supernatural, leaving an indelible mark on all who encounter it. So, the next time you find yourself in Kuala Lumpur, take a moment to reflect on Jalan Turi. Remember the lives lost, the stories told, and the lingering spirits that continue to haunt its streets. December 11th, 1993. A rainy afternoon in Kuala Lumpur. Children were playing. Families were resting. No one knew that in mere moments, an entire building would collapse. At exactly 1:35 p.m., Block 1 of the Highland Towers collapsed. A roaring sound echoed through the hills. The ground trembled, and then 12 stories of concrete and steel crumbled to the earth. In under 30 seconds, 48 lives were lost. It was Malaysia's worst structural disaster. But for many, the real horror began after the collapse. What was once a luxury high-rise became a decaying buildings of sorrow. The remaining blocks were left abandoned. Nature reclaimed it, but something else never left. Security guards, locals, and thrill seekers began reporting strange encounters, footsteps with no one around, voices in the wind, shadows that moved on their own. One night, a group of young men sneaked in with flashlights and cameras, eager for a thrill. The moment they crossed the rusted gates, something changed. The air felt heavy, almost like the building itself was watching. As they moved deeper inside, the silence grew, unnaturally loud. Then they heard it. One of them turned. His flashlight flickered. A shadow darted across the hall. Then, a scream, but not from one of them. It came from the darkness itself. They bolted out, panting, terrified. When they reached the car, one of them gasped. Deep red scratches ran down his arm. They never dared to return again. After the collapse, guards were hired to prevent trespassing. One man, Pak Zachary, took the night shift. He didn't believe the ghost stories, until one night changed his mind. It was raining again, just like in '93. As he walked past the sealed elevator doors, he heard shuffling footsteps inside, but the elevator had been rusted shut for months. No one could be inside. Then, a sound echoed through the empty hallway, a child's laughter. He froze, pointed his flashlight toward the sound. Nothing. He hurried back to his post, heart racing. Then his walkie-talkie crackled to life. A voice came through, weak, trembling, barely a whisper. Tolong. Pak Zachary froze. That word meant help. It was a woman's voice, faint, distant, full of sorrow. He quit the next morning and never came back. In 1994, a taxi driver shared a chilling story. Late one night, he picked up a young woman standing by the road near Hillview. She was pale, quiet, avoided eye contact, only gave him one instruction. Take me to Highland Towers. He tried to make conversation. She barely responded. As they neared the junction, she told him to stop. He hesitated, confused. What do you need there? He asked. She looked at him and whispered, I left something behind. He asked what? She replied, my body and my life. I died here. When he turned to the back seat, she was gone. Years later, A paranormal researcher ventured into one of the remaining blocks. Armed with gear and a camera, he was alone. Or so he thought. Inside, he saw a little boy standing in the hallway. The boy didn't move, just stared at the floor. The researcher asked, "Why are you here?" The boy slowly turned around. Half of his face was torn and mangled. Then he spoke. "I'm looking for my other arm. I lost it in the other building." The man fled the building, shaken. He never completed his research. Today, Highland Towers remains off limits, fenced off, forgotten by time, but not by those who died. Locals claim to see figures on the balconies, watching. Taxi drivers refuse to go near after sunset. Phones go dead. Lights flicker near the site. And on rainy nights, some say you can still hear them. The whispers, the cries, the voices. So if you ever find yourself near Highland Towers, don't stop. Don't look back. And whatever you do, don't pick up hitchhikers.